when I was 10 years old, there was a little old lady, no disrespect to little old ladies out there, but there was a little old lady in our neighborhood that had just moved to the neighborhood, and she had asked my mom if she knew of any good lawn care providers. She needed someone to mow her grass. And she said, well, Wesley's out of shape and could use the exercise. Why don't you get him to cut your grass? So 10 years old, the lady bought a mower, and she put her son came and put gas, in it and brought a gas tank. And then I would ride. Well, I didn't have a bike then. I would walk to her house a little less than a mile, or my parents would drop me off, and I'd mow her lawn, every week or so. And I got $35 for that. And I always wanted a go-kart. Like, I always wanted to go fast. I had my cousins, they had go-karts and dirt bikes and all that. And quite frankly, my parents couldn't really afford it. I asked Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny like every year, and it just never happened. So I was saving up my money to get a go-kart. Well, I realized that a bicycle would probably be a good investment because I was kind of tired of walking, that mile or whatnot. So I bought a bicycle, and that allowed me to commute to work as a 10 and 11-year-old. And when I finally had saved up enough money, I bought a riding mower instead. I was tired of getting hit in the shins with the acorns and the sticks, quite frankly. But I never really was in it for the money. This lady was a super nice lady. She happened to be a realtor and just very kind. And she appreciated the work that I did. And, it's kind of an instant gratification when you show up that, the place looks kind of shabby. When you leave, it looks really nice and clean. And I just kind of thrived off of that. So when I was, I believe I was 13, I finally got that riding mower. And I used that for about a year or two, picked up a couple of more jobs. My dad would drive me around. My uncle would lend us his trailer. Just so many people that kind of played a role into early success, because as I said, we didn't really have, a lot of money. Really, when I was first working those first 2 years, my parents were kind of taking that money and paying bills with it, which I was totally fine with, because what do I need money for at 10 years old? It just so happened that they did a little shift or something with a retirement plan or something of that nature. They had a little money come in, and they had kept track of how much money they had kind of used for bills and things. And they gave it all back to me, and that's how I was able to buy the riding mower. So it was kind of a good savings account for me, in some ways. So I didn't just start buying video games or something. But so that was awesome. Like I said, a lot of people that helped, like, borrow a truck and trailer and things. That riding mower caught on fire on me when I was 14. And I learned the value of insurance because I didn't have any. Ironically, it was at a professional fireman's house. I'll never forget it. And I just topped the gas tank off with gas. And the way the Cub Cadet riding mowers worked is the gas tank is right underneath the seat. And what the fireman told me was that was the equivalent of 6 sticks of dynamite that I was sitting on top of. So I remember when that thing was on fire, it was kind of this house was somewhat near an intersection. I just kind of ran to the intersection and stood back and watched. Because I was working, my parents allowed me to have a cell phone. Now that's commonplace for a 10-year-old or 14-year-old, however old I was. But that was a big deal in my time. So I called 911, of course. And while I'm waiting for the ambulance, the fire truck to show up, I just remember like praying and like crying and praying and being like, Lord, I thought this is what you had for me. Like, I thought this was what I was supposed to do. This has been going so well. I'd actually just been published in the local newspaper. They'd done a write-up on, my business. And I mean, this lawnmower, man, I put tire shine on it. It was waxed. Like, I even had like scent that I sprayed on the steering wheel, like to make, like, it was like my first car, And I was just so upset. And I thought, man, I thought this was my calling in life. And, what was interesting was in the coming weeks, I got a phone call from a gentleman in Zion Crossroads that had a repair shop. And he said, Wesley, I want you to bring that lawnmower to me. And I said, man, you don't understand. This thing is just like, it was nothing but a metal frame. All the plastic had melted. And, he said, well, bring it to me. So we figured out a way to get it to him. And he asked me if I had the receipt for it. And I said, well, no, I don't have the receipt. And a day or two later, he calls me and he said, I determined that it was a manufacturer defect, the reason that this mower caught on fire. I'm going to give you a store credit to Lowe's in full for the value of what the sale price was. And let's say that was $2,700. A couple years later, we found the receipt and I paid $2,200 for it. So not only did this guy, I mean, blessing in disguise, right? I got more money than what I paid for it. And I got this gift card to Lowe's. So I was like, all right, this is awesome. You know, this guy just found out about me from like the newspaper and had heard that my mower caught on fire, which is just, I mean, just a huge blessing. So I had this stored credit, and around this time, the economy was starting to change. So I believe this was somewhere around the 2008, boom. And I could tell that they were manufacturing mowers cheaper and cheaper, more and more plastic, more things from overseas. They weren't really made as well as what they used to be made. And zero turns were kind of an up-and-coming thing. So I asked my dad, I said, Dad, I really don't want to buy, a mower or equipment that's not of good quality. Can we go buy a zero-turn mower, like a commercial, nice, well-made mower? And so we went and looked at them, and they were, $8,000, crazy expensive, and obviously not at Lowe's. So Dad made me a deal. He said, well, I'll do the financing, and you've got to make payments. Obviously, at 14, you can't get a loan. So he said, but if you don't make the payments, it goes back. I can't afford it. So we financed a zero-turn mower, went and used the gift card to Lowe's for a landscape trailer, and needed a truck to pull it with. This 18-foot trailer. All we had was a car that we used to pull around my first mower with, a Pontiac Bonneville. So went and looked at a pickup truck. Again, keep in mind I'm 14, 15 years old. I didn't have my learner's permit yet. So we took a friend with us, and he said, Wes, if you don't buy this truck, I will. This is a good truck. And he was right. So I couldn't even test drive my first truck, but I bought it, and Dad brought it home, and we rode around and mowed, weed eated, and pulled weeds, and whatever I could find. So I was in business, and of course that was my first truck, and we still have it. It's been 15 years now, and I just made an agreement to get that truck fully restored, and it's going in the garage. That's my baby, but it's my first truck. But so when I turned 16, I bought a tractor. I had been subcontracting my agriculture teacher to run. He had a piece of equipment, a skid steer, so he would come and we would do jobs together. And I was learning kind of the larger projects, landscape construction, erosion control, excavating, and drainage from him. And for him, the jobs I had were probably pretty small. So he was pretty excited when I bought my tractor because, they weren't necessarily his bread and butter, but I learned a lot from him. And so when the same week I got my driver's license, I bought a tractor, and they actually put me in the newspaper for that too. Teen earns license, buys first tractor, which is totally, a country hick, kind of news heading, right? That's what every country boy wants. When he can get a license, he gets a tractor, I guess. But I had paid off that zero-turn mower I bought within a year, so Dad let me get another one. So then I had 2 zero-turn mowers. And the tractor. I had friends that were helping me on the weekends. Of course, was working during the summer. I had some of my teachers that would help me out on the weekends or help me out during the summer. By the time I was a senior in high school, I was doing about $70,000 in revenue, and I was really at a crossroads. Do I go to college? Do I keep working? At the time, society was really saying, you got to go to college. You got to go to college. My sister's really smart. She got a bachelor's degree in 3 years. She was salutatorian or something of her class, governor's school, the top. And so my parents kind of had this expectation that I needed to go to college. I really didn't know what that, looked like for me because I already had a business going and I loved it. So I remember one Sunday morning I was in church and my cousin Rodney Hopkins came over and I was just kind of, tearing up and, he asked what was going on. And I kind of told him, I said, look, I don't know. Do I go to school? Do I work? And he said, you need to go to college. And there's a 2-year program at Virginia Tech that I ended up doing. And Rodney was a graduate of that program. And he said, you need to do both. He said, don't get rid of your business. Whether you take out a short-term loan or find subcontractors, you already have the hardest part done. You've got your reputation out there and you've got it off the ground. Don't throw that away. But you need to go to school. So after that, I was kind of like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So went to Virginia Tech. I did a 2-year degree in turf grass and landscape management. It's an amazing program. You take classes that are strictly relevant to what you're studying, so no underwater basket weaving or anything like that. Very efficient in and out. During that time, I was able to write like my articles of organization for my LLC, my first like policy and procedures manual. I made a job application form, interview questions. I loved the business management part, which was about a third of the curriculum, a third turf grass and a third landscape and plants. So I had an awesome business teacher, Joe Guthrie. He taught me so much. And that really helped like establish some of the fundamentals of my business and being incorporated and things of that nature. So Virginia Tech has an articulation agreement. If you have above a 3.0, you can go into their bachelor's degree program. So I did that for agribusiness. I started off with economics and accounting and English, which are kind of some of my favorite stuff now. The business was starting to double in size while I was doing that. And so we were approaching the 400,000 in revenue mark. I was, 19, 20 years old. And I thought, man, I really, I need to focus on the business. I had a really stressful life trying to manage both. So I started taking classes at the local community college. I did that for about a year, and then we took over the grounds for that community college, which was a 40-acre campus. And again, the doubling in revenue several years in a row where just rapid growth. So I said, you know what, it's time for me to focus on the business. I really don't have to have this degree. For things I didn't know, I knew who to ask, and I built a good team of advisors around me, from insurance agents and bankers to folks in other industries that were doing things well and building systems in their company, to partnering companies like excavating and tree removal. So that's when I just started focusing on the company full time. I did go on and pursue a degree in Christian ministry from Liberty University. I did that online, just kind of for my own spiritual growth, which was amazing. So I finished that a few years ago. As life went on and business got bigger, I realized that I was only one guy and I couldn't do but so much myself. And I needed a good team of people around me. I had a right-hand man, and that right-hand man decided to leave around the time that I was planning to get married. And I thought, I really need to think about how I'm doing this. I want to be a family man. I want to be a good husband. At the time, I wasn't, a father yet, obviously, but I knew I wanted to be a good father and set myself up well for that. And so I thought, what is it that we do? We do several different things. We have maintenance work. We have installation work. We prune things. We mow grass. We spray lawns. We build patios. We plant trees and shrubs. I thought about all the different things we did. And I said, if I were to treat each of those little divisions like they were their own company, I want someone that's going to champion those. I want to build a leadership team, and I want to have somebody that when they wake up in the morning, what they think about is that side of the business. So I started a leadership team. We got away from the company so we could work on the business and not in the business. We went to my living room for about an hour and a half every Monday morning while everyone else got to sleep in. And I just poured into them. I kind of think of it as like, Jesus and the disciples, he had 12 that he worked with and 3 specifically that he poured into. And because of that type of principle, thousands, we're still practicing Christianity today, right? So it multiplied. And he's Jesus, so he could have done it all himself, but he decided to pour into other people. And so I kind of decided that was the approach I wanted. I would spend a lot of time with those couple of people, and I would let them lead the rest of the team. So that structure is something we're still carrying on today as we grow. We actually got rid of the exclusive leadership team meeting last year and went to more of a company-wide meeting. We shortened it, but we still have great, camaraderie amongst our leaders. But that was one of the most pivotal things I could have done. I couldn't do everything myself. I began to learn the art of delegation. I began to think about career paths for people that I hired so that they could come in even at the bottom with no experience and map out a plan for them to become into a place of management or sales where they could be commissioned, and the harder they work, the more they get paid, just like an entrepreneur. And so those have been some things that were really pivotal, key decisions that were made several years ago that have kind of got us to where we are today.